Absolutely. So grid failure can be predicted. In fact, they are predicting it. So we work with Department of Energy. I recently started working with Department of Energy with developed state, not India, where they are actually using AI to predict grid failures. We have started. It's a very apt use case because we can easily utilize this as a simple, so we could have a simple exercise that okay, we just need a feedback, so we can use a QR code, for example.
Hello viewers, welcome to another show of the Connect series. Today we are going to discuss artificial intelligence, which is the talk of the town today in view of the remote working and other COVID forced lockdowns, etc. It is, I think, the subject is getting more and more importance. We have Mr. Nandan Mishra from Algo 8 to discuss the topic with us. Mr. Mishra is by basic qualification, he's a chemical engineer and he's got into AI and data analytics now. Let's find out from him as to what prompted him from chemical engineering, which is seen as a hardware and hard plants, etc., to get into data analytics. Mr. Mishra, welcome to the show. As we were discussing, we basically chemical engineer got into data analytics. So let's briefly discuss the journey, your journey into analytics.
In fact, my MTech thesis was a part of application of what we call advanced analytics into chemical engineering. So, and that is where I entered into a non-core subject in one of the banks that I worked with, which was Citibank. So we started building advanced analytical models for credit prediction, and that's why my journey into machine learning started. And then I worked independently with Google Maps for some time in India, and then we formed this company. So that has been the journey. So while the engineering design principles of scaling and building to scale are intact, what we are doing is we are building machine learning models and artificial intelligence models. Yeah.
I think your core competence now is into what you call oil and gas industry.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Apart from the other sectors that you have been talking about. So let's from the layman's term point of view, let's understand. See, normally artificial intelligence is generally understood as something. If I go for an Amazon search, where whatever search I do for something else, same ads, same messages keep appearing. If I do, so for instance, for a washing machine, for a television, or for a particular Netflix serial, so if I click on your mail, probably that ad will appear. So obviously, Google behind my head is doing the artificial search for me and placing it there to see whether I'm interested or not. And at the same time, it asks me whether that ad, if I say I click it, mute it, it'll ask me whether it is relevant to me or not and why I'm saying no to it. So that is the basic common man's understanding of an artificial intelligence.
It's a very relevant question. So firstly, let's just understand what intelligence is. Okay.
Yeah.
So many times I ask this in our workshops that what is intelligence. So somebody says ability to make decisions. Somebody says this, somebody says that. Actually, intelligence is very objectively defined as the ability to create and apply right knowledge.
Okay.
So when we are able to create and apply right knowledge, it is called intelligence. Now, the thing is that human intelligence tends to, as we grow in our knowledge sets, the fundamental for intelligence is the context in which you are applying the intelligence. Okay. It is decisive. For example, when a sociologist will look at a piece of information or a piece of data, he will have a context in which he's looking at it.
True.
And similarly, there will be a branch of ontologists who will look at it from a perspective. Then epistemologists will look at it from an environmentalist will look at it from the one perspective. So everybody has a context. Now, what happens is that as the context matures and as our knowledge matures, our context gets more and more knowledge based. So where AI comes to our where AI becomes a savior is when the data is understood as is, and it contributes directly to the intelligence or directly to the knowledge. So you can think that it expands the amount of information that we can get from a piece of data. So that is where AI scores better than human intelligence
No,
many
no, you
times.
said create and apply the knowledge. So
Correct, correct. So we have to understand that how knowledge is created through data. So
okay.
when machines create knowledge through data, they are called artificial intelligence.
All right.
So intelligence is the ability to create and apply knowledge, and artificial intelligence is any machine would be said to be AI if it can create and apply right knowledge through data.
Okay.
Now, how does it happen? So data plus context gives you information. Information plus tacit and explicit knowledge that exists pre-existing gives you more knowledge, and then that knowledge transforms into understanding. So when you are describing something, it is information. When you are diagnosing something, it is how you we ask each other, how are you? So that is knowledge. And then when we look at why, why something exists, it is understanding.
Okay.
And when we use this knowledge and understanding to take a decision, then our wisdom is to have the right, wisdom is to substantiate our decision with the right knowledge. So the ability to make the right decision is coming from the right knowledge. So a wise person can use machine or artificial intelligence or human intelligence in the same context. We
So
are already doing it.
let's discuss the application of it from a commonly understood field like FMCG, which
Let's
also
pick.
I believe you serve it. So let's see in a couple of sentences probably you can explain to the viewers as to how
Right.
AI can be applicable, made applicable for FMCG.
Definitely. So when we talk of fast moving consumer good, you can pick up, for example, cold drinks, or you can pick up even the soaps or anything that we use daily and it has got a high frequency of consumption.
Yes.
Uh, uh, we have to look at, customer choices when they evaluate a particular FMCG product. Why I am buying one product or the other, there can be AI behind it. So it's very much similar to, you clicking on an ad or not. So when you see an ad, whether you will click on it or not, actually the machine is analyzing from your persona. Similarly, any FMCG good that you buy, there are AI models that can tell you that, okay, based on the artificial intelligence knowledge created through the different data sets, this particular soap or this particular inventory will be consumed or will not be consumed, and based on that, they basically stock their inventory levels. So just integrating right from the customer choice to the production, to the supply chain, and to the raw materials, everything can be linked using AI. And how it happens is that you are able to get the data around customers, you are able to get the data around the preferences, and you're able to build the entire.
So coming to our main topic, oil and gas industry. Say,
Yeah.
so do you work from the refinery perspective or from the production perspective, or both?
Yes. So we primarily work in downstream industry right now. So if you think of Indian refineries, then we work with HPCL, HMEL, IOCL, BPCL,
Yeah.
some of the clients. So some of these clients. So we do work with them. So primarily our job is to basically work on either their supply chain or the process improvement using AI or asset maintenance. They invest heavily in their assets. So basically maintaining those assets and ensuring that they are not corroded. Artificial intelligence can find that. Then optimizing the energy requirement for the plant and also working on compliance regulations. Like for example, there are so many compliance regulations around environment, around. So how do we ensure that there is better compliance in India? So we also work on that as well. So building AI models that can predict any kind of non-compliance and retune the operations such that they are compliant. So all of those things. Yeah.
So this basically happens as data is fed in from various sources.
Yes. So, okay. So let me just explain that.
Yeah.
So how AI works. So as I was telling you, so there is a basic layer of data, and on that data, basically the machine is learning about certain decisions that it has to make. Okay.
Yeah. we have been having these power failures for the past couple of days in Mumbai and surrounding areas. Don't you think that AI can be used in that kind of a scenario also?
Definitely. So grid failure can be predicted. In fact, they are predicting it. So we work with Department of Energy. We recently started working with Department of Energy with developed state, not India, where they are actually using AI to predict grid failures. We have started. It's a very apt use case, because the kind of scale of computing that you need, you would need AI to compute that. Yeah.
So are we, you mean to say India is not all that advanced to adopt AI, or where are we lagging? What prevents us from using AI in these critical
I think
sectors?
no, there is a sufficient amount of thrust. If you would have seen that there is a lot of thrust from the government to utilize AI.
Yeah.
You've been working with the PSUs on both on the energy side, both on the oil and gas side, and there is a lot of thrust and a lot of intent to implement AI now. I think it's only a factor of time that the data, etc., will be organized in a manner such that AI can take up the scale. All the organizations nearly are working. So you think of PSUs in oil and gas, PSUs in power sector, PSUs in coal sector. Everybody is now aware of what has to be done. Now they have to move from. Also, there was some level of data resistance earlier, but now they are more. They are understanding that it is much better to adopt this new technology. So they are at that level that they have become data savvy, what we call. So that is, there are three stages: data resistant, data savvy, then data guided, and then finally data driven. So now they are at a data savvy position, and they have to now move to data guided. So they are getting prepared. So there are AI pilots happening, AI solutions are happening. All of those things are now happening. And sooner or later in the next 5 years, there'll be massive AI adoption. But when you look at the West, they are already doing such stuff. So they are at a level of intelligence where they are already having diagnostic intelligence. So for example, the use case that you discussed is a diagnostic intelligence use case.
Okay.
It's not a predictive. So given a grid fails, we can firstly diagnose. So that is one level of intelligence. Then it is like utilizing this failure data. Can I even predict? So we have done this for a telecom player also in India. So
okay.
Where we could predict that on a given day, this tower will go bad and you have to send this person to that for the repair of this. So we are able to do that on almost 3 days before. Similarly, failure in refineries, we are able to predict 40 days before.
Okay.
40 days before, we'll be able to tell you that, okay, this is going to happen. If you have a process and that process is running and there is some quality of product that has to come out, we'll be able to tell you that what will be the quality of this product without even, so just by training and testing the data on the previous journeys. So
you're talking about you're mentioning about telecom tower. So did you also in a way study, get to gauge the consumption pattern?
Yes, that's a very good point. So actually, as you said, so there is always demand and there is supply. So any kind of grid that you're talking, be it telecom, be it electrical.
Yeah.
So demand forecasting is the first step. So for any grid, demand forecasting and predictive maintenance. These are the two use cases that would be essential for any kind of distributed network, which is fulfilling any kind of demand. So the first level is that there is a PSU which is actually working on the prediction, on the demand prediction, that okay, for a specific geolocation or a geospace, this is the amount of electricity or this is the amount of telecom tower signals that are needed. Also, what happens is now with the 5G and the SDNs coming, where we call the software defined network, and there are telecom players in India which are doing so well. You'll be able to dynamically allocate that demand. So you will be not only be able to predict it, you'll be able to dynamically allocate. Okay, the demand is increasing, let's increase the throughput here. So losing signal will be a problem of the past. So that is again AI driven.
We're talking a lot about making the entire country broadband connected and make sure that data analytics becomes easier. So you mean to say that in future, a government will be able to analyze and see where a particular commodity is less in supply, where food grains are required,
yes.
To tackle the drought situation, or where the more LPGs are required, that kind of a scenario. So life can be better, utilizing
totally. Totally. In fact, there is a lot of massive amount of data generated by our satellites, and satellites can not only help you great. So I'll just discuss a small use case we did for Himachal Pradesh Forest Department, and it was another very interesting use case that came out to be, and that was related to, there are so many so in this the plantation drives that happen in the
Oh, yes. In the
so
hills, in the
so
hills.
yes, yes, so the sapling that is put, it we don't know whether the sapling will live or die,
Yes. There's
and
no
it
monitoring.
comes
There's no monitoring.
and it comes out to be that 50%, 60% die, you know
Yes.
so
Yes.
so so we contacted the department, and this is currently being used by the rangers, where we have built a complete GIS app. The GIS app is actually using the previous year's forest survey and sapling data. Okay, that this much sapling was there. What was the mortality? So based on that, we are able to give them recommendation that, okay, if you are in this part of the land, only plant these three species, because these three species not only are biodiversity wise coherent, but
Yeah.
also are also recommended to last here for the next 5 years. So there'll be an increased probability. We are doing this, and it is a very successful pilot for Himachal Pradesh. And now we want to scale this. So again, artificial intelligence. Again, we are able to prescribe through pattern, through analyzing the soil pattern, through analyzing how the from past the various species have grown. We are able to give that intelligence to a ranger who's actually planting it, and then monitor it.
No, but does
So
it help
this is
in pinpointing? Supposing I planted one species, one plant, you know, and that is there's nobody to look after that. In a row, maybe 10, 15 of them die. So can that be detected? Because I'll tell you the
yes,
reason. I'll
yes,
tell you the reason. As a media person, also as an environmentalist, I have a vested interest. You can say I have vested interest in this. The tree plantation is one of the biggest scams in this country. You know, they take money, then they plant, they show on record they planted 5 crore plus saplings, and they take the money. And then when you comes to after 5 years, when you see the survival rate, and you come to see that there's hardly any, you said 50,
I would
60% survival rate. Yeah. So if the AI is applied, this can be checked.
definitely. So we did this technology in collaboration with IIT Kanpur, our firm, which is so we have around almost 8 labs in different IITs. We work with a lot with professors, etc., on basic research as well, and the government, and it has been phenomenal in terms of result. The chief minister has shown a lot of accolades for whatever we have done. And we have also contacted the MOEF for a scaling of this. So all of that is happening.
So that means it means that probably it can lead to better governance for the betterment of
Yes.
the citizens.
And
There will
think
be
of, think,
accountability.
yes, and think of this way that, suppose I want to build a forest area in some place, then we can actually analyze previous patterns of that, whatever forests have grown, whatever species have grown, and actually recommend what is local, what is that local intelligence is there.
I'll take you to a slightly more contextual and it's slightly controversial of late. There's been
Okay.
a lot of talk about TRPs.
The Mumbai police has categorically stated here that India Today is not an accused, whereas Republic TV is an accused in this particular scam, and that's why heat is now mounting on Republic TV over this cash for TRPs racket. A day after the Mumbai police made this sensational revelation, claiming that along with 2 Marathi channels, Republic TV also cheated Bharat by paying for TRPs. Republic TV's editor, promoters and all those involved in the case will be soon summoned for the...
This report, ladies and gentlemen, does not mention Republic, does not mention Republic TV, Republic Bharat, Republic World, or any other associate, subsidiary or affiliate company of the Republic Media Network, even once.
TRPs from the television rating points, can they not be detected with monitored, what you call supervised through AI system? Why do we have to go for this brick and mortar?
Right. So that's a good question. So see, if you look at what we are trying to measure, so and the answer is there actually. So the answer is that number of impressions of or eyes impression on the on the screen. So that is the use case.
What they call eyeballs normally.
Eyeballs.
Yeah.
So So what they basically do, they emit a particular frequency, and then the device measures that frequency. For each of the channels, there is a definite frequency, and then they count the frequency and they take a sample.
Yes.
So there are only two things that are there. One is that the sample size.
Yeah.
How big is the sample size? How representative is the sample size? Because that will bring in. So the difference between statistics and AI is statistics relies on samples.
Yeah.
Machine learning learns the entire phenomena.
Okay.
So it's like, it's like we describing something that we know. We using something that we know to describe something, or we describing that which exists.
Yeah.
The difference is, so are we trying to fit everything that is happening into what we know, or are we actually learning of what is going on? So that is the difference. So now if you have to think of that manner, so there will be restraints of sample size, everything will be there. Now, what has to be done is that if we have to do it at all, we can easily utilize this as a simple. So we could have a simple exercise that, okay, we just need a feedback. So we can use a QR code, for example, which could be utilized for just, if you can just scan this QR code. If you're watching this channel, just scan this QR code and you can collect at a random given day how many people are watching which channel. It's an easy exercise. And that's a much more representative, much more centrally collected data.
No, but if you ask me to scan a QR code, why should I do it? What is my interest in it as a viewer?
You can give some incentives. So it's a simple incentive. So suppose, such a business model can be easily thought of, that you have, for example, you want to collect 1 crore different signals from the screen, or more, 10 crore different signals. And you'll say that, yes, definitely the top 5 will get this much. Everybody will actually participate.
No, but can duplication be avoided in this kind of a QR scanning? Because I repeatedly scan and send it to you 15 times.
No, that will not happen. So the QR code can change dynamically. It can change, definitely. Okay. So they already do it. So if you open up Tata Sky, and the other way you can measure it is that Tata Sky and all of these people actually have the rating that who's watching what.
Correct.
So you have to just aggregate it. So the simple algorithm can just actually do it very easily.
In fact, that's what I tweeted to the information minister, saying that you just aggregate total of you just contact the DTH operators, collect all the data, let an independent agency put it together and supply to the market. But today's situation here is that there are more homes which are cable homes than the DTH homes. Cable is still even that can be.
Even that can be done. They can track it to the last, and sooner or later your set-top box can be enabled in that manner. Suppose if it is that important a matrix and all the ads are running in that manner, then definitely your set-top box can be put into can be transformed into a very simple device which can have a continuous screening. It is a very easy process. It can be easily done.
Also, I think even the cable operator draws signal from the satellite only, and then it sends you by cable. I think
yes. So given the intent, the implementation can be done.
Okay, let's get back to our main topic. Yes. So we're discussing the oil and gas industry, the various FMCGs, how AI can be, utilized. So if there is increase in oil consumption or fall in oil consumption, like we described the power scenario, the refinery capacity can be changed, modulated. Does it work that way?
Yeah, so that's a good question. See, what we are talking about is, so let's take the current example. Okay, so the current example is that, okay, the crude prices are poorly hit. So you're saying, so now the thing is that they always had an OPEX related to the refinery, which was kind of reflective of the CAPEX. So the CAPEX has fallen very, very down. So the margin of operation has gone down. So now AI will focus on improving the margins. So how can that happen? That can happen by predictively maintaining the asset. That can happen by improving the supply chain. That can happen by optimizing the processes further. That can happen by reducing the energy needed. That can happen by reducing the non-compliant factors so that the refinery does not see any shock, shutdown or something like that. So it will be primarily around marginal improvement when the crude prices have gone down.
Okay.
Now, there is something called the technical minimum. Each refinery is designed for a technical minimum threshold amount of operation. All the refineries. So if you talk to Indian refineries, everything runs at 110%. They'll say that we run at 110%. So the challenge is that, yes, when the demand is less, there is a technical minimum hit. And that's where the minimum viable operation has to be activated. AI can play a huge role there. Yeah.
Mr. Mishra, the whole thing functions on the net, on the connectivity, on the internet, etc. What about the security issues? For instance, today, in the case of remote working, say I'm maybe for my refinery working out of home, I'm using the network. So there can be cyber security issues, somebody hacking my site or virus.
I see secure. That's what I say. That secure industry 4.0 is a much bigger thing than industry 4.0. So industry 4.0 is the the fourth industrial revolution that we are seeing right now.
Yeah.
So security will play a very big role because it's like a weapon.
Yes.
So suppose you hack into a refinery is a bomb.
Yeah.
You can do anything now if you can hack into the control.
Correct.
Yeah? So proper cyber security measures have to be created. So for that, what generally, if you look at a large refinery, it has got all the firewalling, etc. They are following the practices. What is being done is that how the vendors, for example, if somebody is running a solution within the refinery cyber environment, what is the level of security that he is following? So there has to be a proper audit around the potential chinks that can be caused. And most of the hackers never utilize the main pool. So the main pool is like a large fort. It is secure. But suppose you allow 2 people to enter the fort. Now, with this person, I can enter. So these 2-3 vendors who are allowed to get into the fort, I'll hack into their system so that I can hack into the pool.
Something like what probably happened during Mumbai attacks. The terrorists came,
yes,
unless they had a local somebody to take them inside, they wouldn't have come through.
Correct. Bang on. So cyber and physical analog is very correct there. Actually, it is correct that the local agent will be the source of the malware. It will never be the wall.
I think that explains
that is definitely a concern.
That probably explains why the president's website is hacked or the parliament website is hacked. Sometimes you get to hear even the president of America's website is hacked. So that's obviously there is a linkage. Yeah. There is a leak somewhere.
So NIC, yes. So the leakage always happens through one of these sources, and it is always, the best practices and the adherence to those best practices and a quality audit that creates good practice around. Otherwise, there are always people are there, then, humans behave in n number of ways. So
and quickly,
that is human dependent.
Quickly, finally, one question, Mr. Mishra, I won't take much of your time. There is a fear that machine will overtake the man. We will become robots. A machine will be the human being. Do you see that kind of a threat? If not today, maybe 20-30 years down the line, machine overtaking a man.
20-30 years down the line. Okay, let me just tell you. So see, that's where the context of wisdom and intelligence will come in. So what is wisdom? Wisdom is the ability to make right decisions. Yeah. Intelligence is the ability to create the knowledge. Knowledge helps you take the decision, definitely. But is knowledge decision? No, it is not. Decision, making a decision. So suppose I train the number of AI, I train an AI to take, so there is already it is happening. So for example, the pricing, when you go to Amazon, if you start, or any company, you start buying something, then you will find that there is a surge, just like in the market, you will find
stock market, like a stock market. Yeah.
Already things are happening. They learn the demand, they can price it. So it is the intelligence. So the more the data I can perceive, the better and the larger my insight can be. So we got to definitely protect individual human choices versus a perceptual intelligence. That protection has to be. Yes. I'll just give you an example. Suppose when you search on Google, you get top results related.
Yeah.
So can Google also not show the result which is totally not related, or just the reverse related?
Yes.
Suppose, or at least the reverse opinion.
If I search for Narendra Modi, it should show me Rahul Gandhi also. But the keyword should be common probably. If Narendra Modi says Narega, Rahul Gandhi should be saying Narega.
Right. And if there is an issue around Hathras or something, you know, then both the perspectives should be there. It should not be that I get conditioned into a perspective. That is one very important thing. That is one very important thing that a social media or a search engine can bring in, which can be a differentiator from that. And that is where the intelligence is. So I would say biased intelligence is definitely dangerous. Artificial intelligence is not dangerous.
Yeah,
that's what I can say.
I think that's a very good point. Biased intelligence is very, very dangerous. I think that's where all of us we started the discussion by saying knowledge. All the people with knowledge, empowered with knowledge, should use that intelligence for a good use, for the betterment of society, for making our lives better and not making our lives miserable. I think that's a very good point. Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for your time. We'll get back to you because it's not a discussion that can be summed up in 20-30 minutes. It's an unending topic. We will keep having discussion with you. We'll keep troubling you whenever you have time. Thank you very much for your intelligence. Yeah.
Thank you. Take it. Bye.
Thank you, viewers, for your time. Very soon we'll get back to you with another interesting topic. Thank you.